but her shirt had slipped down her shoulder while I was fixing the faucet under her sink, and my hand had grazed her bare skin, warm, soft, too intimate for something so accidental. She didn't flinch. She just looked at me, and that silence, it stuck. Her name's Anya. She lives 3 houses down. Late 40s, maybe early 50s, but the kind of woman who makes you forget about numbers. I was helping her out because her son, Caleb, is my friend. Not a close one. We met at a campus club, laughed about politics, and traded Spotify playlists, but close enough that I'd been in their kitchen before, grabbed a soda from their fridge. Never really looked at his mom then. But now I was under her sink while she leaned against the counter in her robe, the kind that's technically modest but clings in all the right ways when she moves. "It started leaking again," she had said that morning, peeking through the slightly open door, mascara not yet done. "You're better at this stuff than Caleb." I'd shrugged, pretending not to notice the way she smelled like fresh coffee and something softer, maybe lavender. "I'll check it out," I said, pulling my hoodie off and grabbing the wrench from my backpack. We didn't talk much at first. She hovered near the counter, sipping coffee and watching me work. I could feel her gaze on the back of my neck. But when I asked her to pass me a towel, our hands touched. And that's when it shifted. She didn't pull away fast. I didn't either. "Thanks," I said, voice lower than usual. She nodded but didn't speak. Just stood there, one hand on her hip, eyes flicking to mine, then down. The air was suddenly too quiet. No ticking clock, no sound from upstairs. Even the drip had stopped, like the universe paused to watch us hesitate. I started, pushing up from under the sink. She moved at the same time, and for 1 second we were too close. Her body brushed mine. My hand steadied her waist, and she didn't move. I didn't either. "You've grown up," she said quietly, not looking at me. I swallowed. My pulse kicked in my ears. "So have you?" I said before I could stop myself. "A joke, maybe not." She smiled, then looked away too fast. Her eyes darted to the hallway, the one that led to Caleb's room. "He doesn't know you're here," she said. It wasn't a question. "No." Then she leaned in, just slightly, enough that I caught the shift in her breath. Her voice dropped, like she was whispering something she'd already regretted. "Don't tell my son about this." And that's when I knew. He already knew. The way he avoided eye contact last time I mentioned her. The way he tensed when I offered to help with the house. The way he always changed the subject if her name came up. Whatever this was, it wasn't new. And neither was the way she looked at me now, like the idea had already bloomed in her mind long before today. She just hadn't dared touch it. Until now. Her fingers brushed mine as she reached for the towel again. Not an accident this time. I didn't move. I should have left. That would have been the smart thing. Pack up the wrench, give a polite smile, walk out the door like this was nothing more than a neighborly favor. But I didn't move. And neither did she. The silence between us now wasn't awkward. It was loaded. Her hand still grazed mine near the towel. Her robe had slipped a little more. Collarbone showing, neckline just loose enough to make me forget how to breathe. "I should check the bathroom sink too," I said, almost stupidly, like I needed a reason to stay. She didn't call out the excuse, just nodded. It's been acting up too. But I knew she hadn't mentioned it earlier. She'd made it up, same as I had. And now we were both pretending to stay for the house. I followed her down the hallway. Everything about it felt wrong. And still I went. Her voice came softer now, almost distant. "You remind me of someone I used to know." I paused, waiting for her to go on. But she didn't. So I knelt by the bathroom sink, trying to focus on the pipes. But all I could see was her reflection in the mirror. She was leaning against the doorframe now, arms crossed but not in defense. More like she was holding something in. "I used to be married," she said suddenly. "Did Caleb ever mention that?" "No," I said. "He doesn't talk much about that kind of stuff. He was 10 when it ended." His father cheated. 3 times, actually. She gave a dry laugh. The third one was younger than me by a lot. Maybe even your age. She smiled at that, but it wasn't happy. I'm sorry, I said. Felt lame, but it was all I had. I don't want pity, she said, sharper than before, then softer again. I stopped trusting men after that. Until she cut herself off. I waited. She didn't finish. Until what? Until me? I stared down at the rusted fitting I wasn't even tightening anymore. My hands were frozen around the wrench, my chest tight. She wasn't just Caleb's mom anymore. She wasn't just a neighbor. She was a woman who watched me like she remembered how it felt to be wanted. And I saw her more clearly than I wanted to admit. The soft line of her collarbone, the way her laugh always caught in her throat, the small scar near her wrist she never talked about, the way her eyes never looked directly at you when she was talking about something that mattered. This was dangerous, not because it was wrong, but because it didn't feel wrong. I made some tea, she said suddenly, voice too casual. You don't have to rush. I looked up. She was already turning back toward the kitchen. But as she passed, her hand slid across my arm. Not a brush. A touch. Warm. Intentional. And I almost said it. I don't want to leave. But I bit it back. For now. She handed me a mug of tea with both hands. Like passing it that way made it mean something more. Careful. It's hot, she said. I was already watching her fingers as they let go. She didn't wear a ring, hadn't for a long time probably. But I still looked, as if it would change what I felt when her skin brushed mine again. We sat at her small kitchen table. The only sound was the faint creak of the ceiling fan and the soft clink of ceramic on wood. Her robe had shifted, tied tighter now, but her hair had fallen messily over her shoulder. She didn't fix it. Neither of us said much, but it didn't feel quiet. It felt like something was humming beneath the air, louder than anything we could say. I didn't think you'd stay, she said after a while. I didn't think you'd ask me to. That made her glance up, a flicker of something in her eyes. Surprise? Guilt? Relief? I don't get many people who linger. You noticed that? I said before thinking. She looked down at her tea, turning the cup slowly in her hands. I notice more than I should. There was a knock then, sharp, not urgent, but present enough to crack whatever thread had been forming between us. She stiffened. Wait here, she said quickly, standing. I watched her walk to the door, robe flowing just enough to remind me how long I'd been sitting there, frozen in a place I shouldn't feel comfortable in. A man's voice filtered in, older, rough, familiar in a way I couldn't place. Just wanted to drop this off, he was saying. Didn't mean to catch you off guard. An ex, maybe? A neighbor? Whoever he was, she kept the door barely cracked. Her tone was polite but distant, efficient. Thanks, Carl. I'm fine. I've got someone helping me today. My chest tightened at the word. Someone. Not Caleb. Not a name. Just someone. By the time she came back in, her smile was back on. But it didn't reach her eyes. Sorry, she said. Old neighbor. He checks in more than I need. I nodded, but something in me recoiled, like I'd seen a different side of her. One that had to hide things, protect something, or someone. I stood up, trying to shake it off. I should go. You don't have to, she said, too fast. I know. I wasn't moving, not really. My feet stayed planted even as I said the words. She stepped closer. You can go, she said, if that's what you want. But her voice wavered just slightly, and when she reached to take my mug, her fingers didn't let go of mine right away. I don't know what I want right now, I said, quietly, except that I shouldn't be here. And still I didn't step back. Neither did she. I shouldn't want this. Her voice barely broke above a whisper. It wasn't for me. It was to herself, like she'd been holding those words in her chest for too long and they finally slipped out. We were standing in her kitchen, inches apart, the distance between us too narrow to pretend we weren't thinking the same thing. I had one hand on the back of the chair, the other still brushing against hers from where she'd taken the mug. Her eyes wouldn't meet mine. "You're not doing anything wrong," I said quietly. She let out a breath. "But I'm thinking it." We both were. The thing is, this didn't feel like some reckless crush. It didn't feel like lust spiraling out of control. It felt earned. Like all the quiet moments, all the glances and silences and accidental touches were pieces that had been falling into place without either of us saying a word. And now they were all here staring back at us. "I don't know what I'm doing," she said. "You're his friend. You're barely—" "Don't say it." I cut in. "I know how old I am. I know who I am. But I'm not here by mistake." She finally looked at me then. Really looked. There was something raw in her eyes, like a dam cracking behind them. "I haven't felt like this in years," she said. "Not even close. And I hate that it's you. That it's this situation." I swallowed hard. "You think I don't hate it too?" Her lips parted, like she wanted to say something more. But she didn't, so I stepped back. Just a little. Enough to remind myself what it meant to stop. "I can go," I said. "I should." She nodded but didn't move. "You think leaving fixes it?" "No. But staying makes it worse." Silence. A thick, heavy kind. She stepped toward me. Slow. Careful. Like every inch hurt. "Tell me something real," she said. Eyes locked on mine. "Something you wouldn't say if this were just a mistake." I didn't hesitate. "I notice everything about you," I said. "Every time you tuck your hair behind your ear when you're trying to keep your emotions in check. The way you talk too fast when you're nervous. How you only use that chipped mug when you're sad." Her breath caught. "I notice you," I said softer now. "Even when I try not to." Her hand reached out before either of us could stop it. It landed on my chest, just above my heart. She didn't pull away. "You shouldn't say things like that," she whispered. But I already did. And then we just stood there. Close enough that her perfume curled around me again. Close enough that one more step would ruin everything. Or maybe fix it. She looked up at me with eyes full of something she wasn't ready to name yet. Then she asked, "Would you still want me if he found out?" I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because it scared me how easy the answer was. Yes. God, yes. But before I could say it, before the moment could settle into something either dangerous or undeniable, there was a voice. From the hallway. "You left your phone in the living room." My stomach dropped. Anya turned fast, stepping back from me like we'd been caught doing something criminal, and in some ways maybe we had. There he was. Caleb. Her son. My friend. The kid who lent me headphones at school, who trusted me enough to leave me alone in his house. And now he was standing 10 feet away, watching his mom look guilty and me too stunned to speak. His expression was unreadable. Not angry, not surprised, just tired. "I've known for a while," he said, casually placing the phone on the counter like this wasn't about to unravel everything. Anya's voice broke first. "Caleb, I saw the way you looked at him, Mom." He cut in, no sharpness in his tone. "And I saw the way he looked back." Silence. "You think I didn't notice you keeping him around longer than necessary?" he added, now glancing at me. "Fixing things that didn't need fixing?" "I wasn't—" I started, but stopped myself. I didn't want to lie. Not now. He shook his head, then looked straight at me. "You could have told me, man." "I didn't know what it was," I said honestly. "And by the time I did, it was already happening." Caleb let out a laugh. Not cruel, just hollow. "I'm not mad," he said after a long pause. "It's not even about that. I wish someone would have told me the truth for once." Anya stepped toward him, slow, cautious. "I didn't mean to hide it. I didn't want to hurt you." He turned away. It's not about you hurting me. It's about you never choosing yourself unless someone else gave you permission. That hit her harder than anything I could have said. You always talk about how lonely you are, Caleb continued, softer now. But the one time you let someone in, you're ashamed of it. Anya's eyes filled, and she sat down without saying anything. I don't want you to be alone, Caleb said. Either of you. I just didn't want to be the reason this feels wrong. I blinked. The kid wasn't stupid. He wasn't blind. And he wasn't angry. He just wanted honesty. And maybe, for this to be real, not hidden. He looked at me again. So, are you gonna stay or what? That question hung between all three of us. But it was her eyes I looked at, not his. He left us there. Caleb, the one person we'd been hiding from, walked out of the kitchen without another word. The front door closed behind him with the quietest click, but it sounded louder than it should have, like something ending. Anya hadn't moved. Her hands were in her lap, twisted tightly together. She stared at the floor like it might offer an answer, or at least a place to bury whatever was about to spill out of her. I should feel relieved, she said finally, but I just feel exposed. I leaned against the counter, heart still pounding. He's okay. Maybe more okay than we were. She gave a broken smile. He shouldn't have been the adult in the room. You weren't doing anything wrong, I said. She met my eyes. Weren't we? The question hung there. Not accusatory, just honest. I told myself it was just comfort, she went on. Having you around. The way you listened. The way you looked at me. I told myself it didn't mean anything because it couldn't mean anything. I took a step toward her. Then another. But it did, I said. It does. She looked up, eyes glossy but unfallen. I haven't felt wanted in so long, she whispered. Not just physically. I mean, like someone saw me. The real me. Not Caleb's mom. Not the woman who got cheated on. Just me. I knelt down in front of her, resting my hands on her knees, gentle, like the moment might break. I saw you the first day I came to fix that sink, I said, and I haven't stopped since. She laughed, shaky and small. God, this is crazy. I know how old I am, I said, cutting her off softly. And I know how this looks, but I also know how it feels. And that's the only thing I haven't been able to ignore. She stared at me. Her fingers brushed mine, hesitant, still holding back. I'm scared, she said. So am I. The air between us changed, not charged this time, but tender. Still raw. Still messy. But real. I stood again, and she did too, slowly. We weren't rushing. There was no music swelling, no dramatic kiss. Just two people facing the honest truth of what they were about to choose. I don't want to keep this a secret, I said. Not anymore. Her breath caught. Even if it ends? I nodded. Even then. She took one step forward, closed the space between us, and pressed her forehead to mine. I don't know what comes next, she said. Neither do I. And then, finally, she kissed me. Not like in a movie. Not perfect. A little clumsy. A little too slow. But full of everything we'd been holding back for too long. When we pulled apart, we didn't say anything. We didn't have to. It's been 3 weeks. Long enough for the dust to settle. Short enough that I still think about that first moment. Her hand on mine, the words she whispered, the question she never had to ask again. We didn't rush into anything. There weren't any grand announcements. No posts. No labels. Just quiet mornings where I'd show up early and leave late. Sometimes without touching her at all. Just talking. Just being there. Caleb stopped by a few times. Not awkward. Not overly warm. Just normal. Which, honestly, felt like the most generous thing he could have given us. He never asked for details. He never needed to. She asked me once if it would last. I told her I didn't know. That I couldn't promise forever. But I promised honesty. And presence. and to never make her feel invisible again. And that mattered more. Anya changed, too. Not in some dramatic movie-style makeover. Not in the way she dressed or walked. But in the way she started laughing more freely, the way she'd touch my arm without flinching, the way she no longer looked like she was waiting for the next emotional punch. She started choosing herself. Even outside of me, I think she needed someone to remind her she could. And me? I stopped seeing this as some line I wasn't supposed to cross. Some mistake waiting to happen. It was never about age. It was about timing, wounds, loneliness, and the way two people found clarity in each other's mess. We never meant for this to happen, but it did. And now it's ours. The house is different now. The sink doesn't leak. The chipped mug still sits by the stove, but she uses it even when she's happy. Sometimes, when the sun pours through her kitchen window and she's humming to herself without realizing it, I just sit there and watch her. Still stunned that she ever thought she was unlovable. She catches me staring. "What?" She always asks with that smile that's still learning how to believe in itself again. And every time, I say the same thing. Nothing. Just everything. Not all love starts when it's supposed to. And not all stories are clean or easy or safe. But some of the best ones, they begin exactly where they shouldn't, and bloom anyway.